Netflix is a blood-sucking leech that has bitten into the veins of YouTube. It is slowly sucking this website dry, and eventually it will make it no more. Everybody has Netflix. If you don't actually pay for one, you know somebody who has one, and because Netflix is very lax about letting multiple computers use the same system, almost everybody has access to Netflix. And in a world where increasingly the younger generation isn't even paying for cable because they would rather just pay for internet and watch stuff online, being able to have access to a free Netflix account from a friend guarantees you will not buy a cable box. Now, if you're like me, you don't really venture into Netflix that often because you are more a fan of YouTube-style content. You want to see original creations from individuals. You really enjoy the idea of, people using their own incredibly distinct voice to talk about something. But people who feel that way are slowly being pushed to Netflix because Netflix has gotten its claws into the content creators on YouTube. And I don't only mean through direct monetary buyout, which they have done, because seemingly YouTubers are not particularly afraid of the fact that they are directly in competition with Netflix. But also, they're just participating in a large-scale effort on Netflix's part to migrate all of YouTube's audience over to Netflix by just having YouTube be about Netflix. Netflix took over YouTube when they released Stranger Things, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Netflix paid a lot of big people to push that show. Red Letter Media did a sponsored video about Stranger Things, and they have never done one of those before or since. Netflix is the only company who has ever recognized, the power of a push from them, even if it wasn't, 100% positive. As long as it was, mostly positive from these incredibly harsh critics, it was worth the buying cost, for sure. And since they knew they had such a strong show that was going to be a pop culture event and was going to appeal to this generation specifically who grew up in the 80s, that was why it was worth taking the risk to pay them. But they didn't even have to pay that many people, because just by paying a few big people to talk about the show and to paying publications to talk about the show, they made it ride high on search engine optimization results. Which means that if you're someone who takes advice on what content to make based on what search engine optimization tells you is popular, you are going to end up making a video about this show. This is why Jeff Thu suddenly had a video about Stranger Things when he's primarily an anime channel. It was just so big in the search engines that it would be worth it, and there's enough crossover with his audience that he could justify it, even though I don't think a majority of his audience really gave a fuck about that video, considering they are mostly just anime fans who have a fairly contentious relationship with Netflix, more so than almost any other group in America. As a result of this, Stranger Things perpetuated itself. Everyone ended up watching it. My parents ended up watching it because they just generated enough buzz through having everyone online talk about it that it then became SEO optimized for TV as well, and it got attention in mainstream media. And so this show that's kind of like a nerdy 80s throwback, because that resonates with the kind of people who make YouTube videos, and they paid those people to talk about it because those people are cheap, and they are way easier to ask for promotion from than YouTube or TV stars, even though TV stars only have about as much reach. They can very effectively, affordably, pay off Red Letter Media to talk about the show, and then have a sweeping effect through everyone who follows them because they're hugely influential. And being influential is almost even more important than being popular, because if you're influential, that means other creators follow you, and creators will listen to other creators and their recommendations and will continue to make further videos about that show. Other people who have been inspired by these guys, hearing them talk about a show positively, are going to be more likely to watch it and then probably have their own things to say about it because they're already analytically minded, people. This is a genius marketing scheme that only Netflix has figured out, seemingly. I don't know why this isn't, commonly done, that, studios aren't paying YouTubers out the ass to talk about movies. Video gamers are, though. That's how JonTron got bought out, but it was so transparent that I don't think it worked that well in the end. Hardcore creative content is like really slowing down on YouTube right now. People making like highly crafted content is not really a big thing on the website right now because it just doesn't reward that, and like it's not cost effective to make that kind of stuff if the platform doesn't at least give you some monetization, you know, and only certain things really get popular on Patreon. Like, Patreon's audience is attracted to personalities and ongoing narratives, and it's not really, like, helpful for a lot of artists online who used to be able to benefit from YouTube, like animators, who now just have nowhere they can benefit from. Like, no one's filling their pockets, so there's just not much animation left on the platform. At least not in a high-profile sense. You know, there's probably lots of people making, like, interesting underground animation, but, like, there's no way for them to self-promote, and so they're never going to make money off of it. And they probably won't last very long if they don't make money off of it. Egoraptor had like an insanely long life as an animator on the internet compared to most because he made good money off of it for a long time. But it was one thing when everyone was trending towards easier to make videos like Let's Plays where a couple of people would sit down and like discuss things relevant to their personalities and their own unique experiences, which was still like pretty much what we come to YouTube for. It made sense as YouTube content. Analytical videos were similar. The reason I started doing analysis of anime was just to like share my perspective, like to have my thoughts heard and see if anyone else like resonated with my ideas. It was not because I thought this is going to make me a whole lot of money, because if I wanted to do that, I would have gotten into a more sensible industry, or certainly not written in the style I write in. But it has to be affordable for me to do it for long term, you know, like if I want to do enough of this to continue putting effort into it and make sure that like it's going to make me money, then I have to make sure that my content is like applicable to at least some audience. Now, I've found creative ways to do that, and a lot of people have. People like Donkey have created their own brand of relevance. They don't have to rely entirely on what's relevant in the moment, and he still will, you know, put out videos on like big games and stuff like that just to, you know, make sure he keeps getting those 10 million view videos and not just the 2 million view videos. But the reason he can maintain 2 million views is that people are hyped just to watch a Donkey video. And I want people to be hyped just to watch a Digibro video, but that involves like a very certain type of branding and marketing. It involves me having to make, you know, video titles that are simultaneously enticing and clickbaity while also being kind of artfully crafted, because if it's just like pure clickbait, then it's gonna look too dumb for the audience I'm going for to click on it. And some of the audience I'm going for already feels that way, but those are like mostly really pretentious people. But for most YouTubers, there's an easy way out. You just follow the obvious money. You look at the trends and you put your foot down on the button. Netflix has a new show. If they've done anything to promote it at all, then it's going to spread like wildfire, because right now more people use Netflix for most of their entertainment than they do television or fucking YouTube or anything else. Like, Netflix is like the primary mode of creating a cultural event currently in like the landscape of pop media, aside from in the music industry, in which case it's pretty much exclusively the runaway #1 singles that carry the entire industry. Except, of course, in the underground for all of these cases. There are people out there just working for very little money and doing whatever they want, but like, that's a different world from the one we're talking about. One where you are not creating art for the primary purpose of you had an idea. You're creating it for the primary purpose of it's the most popular show, I better come up with an idea. Now, I participated in this recently, and since then I've come to regret it. Because when Devilman Crybaby came out, I saw it as, this is a chance for me to engage with the search engine optimization, make a video that I know will get more views than anything else I'm putting out in this 3-month period I've been in. And you can look at my views and confirm for yourself. That is the case. It's got twice the views of most of what I've got, you know, surrounding it. But the reason I was willing to do it, to like just capitalize on this moment, is that I already liked Devilman. I already liked the manga. I wanted the chance to talk about it. I thought, like, this is going to make an old thing I think is cool relevant. And hey, I like Masaki Yuasa, and I like the idea of anime working with Netflix. Like, I think that's a great thing for anime, but it's terrible for me because Netflix is using me to bring more viewers to Netflix. They are using the cultural events that they're setting up to have a rippling effect. And when you can get hardcore nerds on your side, you win. The reason the Marvel movies do so fucking well is that, like, most Marvel fans like them, except for like the real curmudgeon-y people who are like real outside of pop media and like do not care for it entirely. Most Marvel fans, even hardcore ones, are like okay with those movies. So they have taken the fuck over because there's just not enough people who like hate them to, bring down their stance as like something cool and relevant. And that's what Netflix is doing to itself. Like, it's winning over like niche communities, like people who like Masaki Yuasa, like me, or people who want to watch an 80s throwback show like Stranger Things. And like, it's basically just like casting a net over us and being like, we're the only thing you can report on reliably. Like, there's nothing else you can talk about on YouTube that's going to guarantee the amount of hits that talking about a new relevant Netflix thing is. And that's why today I've sat through in a row 2 different videos about the Cloverfield paradox. Cloverfield has always been a viral marketing campaign. That is the origin of the series. The first movie had like an ARG that launched out of it. There was this huge sense of mystery about what the thing was going to be. And in the end, it didn't even really matter. Like, whether or not that movie is any good is hotly contentious with people, but it didn't matter because the point of it was the experiment. It was to see if this nature of marketing would work. The type of movie that Cloverfield is was not the kind of movie that would have been a pop sensation at all at the time if not for the marketing gimmick behind it. And so that's the experiment. And so each new Cloverfield movie has been a different kind of experiment. With 10 Cloverfield Lane, they took a movie that had nothing to do with Cloverfield, that was good but probably wouldn't be successful, attached the name Cloverfield to it, and tried to see if that would get people to talk about it, and it did. And because it was a really good movie, it meant that, like, all the bloggers and everybody talked about it. Well, because all of the people who were like Red Letter Media, once again, YMS, were saying that this movie is really good. These critics who people trust, who will then go and watch it and then tell their normie friends about it, like everything that me and my fiance watch on Netflix that we think is any good, like that we think our family will like at all, we tell them to watch. And then very soon it is spreading through a whole community because we're sort of tastemakers. We're people who our family trusts to recommend them things because we only do it when we really think they'll like something. So, through this system, Netflix is just punching through all of culture with this shit. And so with this new movie, I think the reason that they released it on Netflix this way is that they took a movie that had nothing to do with Cloverfield and was obviously going to bomb. They attached the name Cloverfield to it and decided to do a stunt release, releasing it on the same day as the Super Bowl. And, like, it didn't matter that the movie wasn't good. Because, once again, the experiment was, will this make people talk about the movie? Like, if we just attach the name Cloverfield to it and release it in a weird way, will that be enough to sell a movie that is dog shit to at least YouTube? To at least the YouTube analysis community who will see it coming on search engine optimization because it's Cloverfield, and Cloverfield is an automatic search term with a long history. It's going to come right back up. And as soon as that thing reaches search engine optimization, all the YouTubers are going to cover it, and they're all going to say it's a piece of shit, but it's still going to bring attention to Netflix. We're still just advertising Netflix by talking about this movie at all. Because at this point, Netflix has made us its bitch. Like, if we want to be relevant, we have to talk about Netflix shows. The service is getting way better. Like, they're definitely, like, trying to win over tech nerds, and it's kind of working. I mean, like, there's good shit on there. I just watched a show that was, like, a YouTube show, but professional, and it blew my fucking mind. There's a show on there about toys. I don't remember what it's called. It's like the toys we grew up with or something. I'm about to actually advertise Netflix. Like, I'm about to do this. Like, what I am criticizing myself for. I am in the process of doing it because this was a better YouTube video than anything I've watched on YouTube all month. Because it was a video about the history of He-Man, and it was presented like a YouTube video where there's just a voiceover and, like, funny edited footage of, like, old He-Man cartoons and stuff over, like, just random backgrounds to make sure there's no black space on the screen like I used to do. It's edited like one of my videos, but interlaced with lots of interview clips from all of the people who worked on the toy line, who created He-Man, and, like, so everyone relevant is there, and they've also edited in a way to make it funny. Like, they've formed a narrative out of the clips to make it, like, funny on a meta level. And that is all YouTube. That is, like, what YouTube is supposed to be doing, but we can't afford it. Like, YouTubers can't afford to go, you know, you could give fucking Vsauce or someone who can do this kind of shit the budget to fucking fly around the world and do shit like this, and YouTube does it sometimes. Like, I mean, they've done it with Vsauce, but, like, there's a lot of channels like that and a lot of potential for, like, this kind of higher level content that still feels like YouTube. It still feels like a fun, informative little video because YouTube has a long history of informational and documentarian style videos. That's the kind of shit I make, you know? It looked like one of my videos, but, like, done by a team with a budget, you know? But the guy orating it who wrote it is, like, as, you know, as clever as I am, or a little more, you know, probably a little more, probably a lot more, probably a lot older than me too, but, like, it was exciting to watch and, like, see the preservation of this art form is being taken up by somebody, but it's disappointing to think that it would be taken up by someone other than YouTube, who is not at all figured out how to funnel money into their creators in an effective way. YouTube Red fucking blows. Nobody cared about Let's Scare PewDiePie or whatever the fuck ever. Like, they should have just given creators a shitload of money and let them go crazy. But, like, instead, they're making it harder and harder for people to make any money, and people are getting antsy, and everyone's clinging to SEO and therefore Netflix, and they're driving all of YouTube's customers over to their competitor. This is a very unfortunate situation.